another contract extension. One of the most underrated players in the league, Jessie Bates. I'm not even going to ask you if they should extend him. It's pretty obvious they should. What do you think the price range for Bates should be?
It really is tough for Bates to gauge whether or not he is worth or how much he is worth money-wise because of the recent quarrels between Justin Simmons and the Broncos when it comes to their contract decisions. I think a lot of people are waiting on to see what happened in that area before they would decide whether or not, or before they decided how much Bates would make. But of course, the Broncos have pushed it down the line so much at this point. I believe having three franchise tags currently right now on Justin Simmons. I believe he's making somewhat near $24 million at this point now in contract extensions, which is, out of this world for a safety. But at the same time, that might be what he's asking for anyways in the contract extension. So we're not exactly sure how that's going to end up turning out. As for Bates, I think this is one of, if not the best safety right now in the league coverage-wise. I mean, as a free safety, I think it's pretty unarguable. It's really him and Minkah Fitzpatrick right now at the top of the league at this point. You have a couple of strong safeties, Budda Baker. You can argue Jamal Adams, Tyrann Mathieu, I think that are good players, good safeties. But I think at this point, you really look at Bates and Minkah being the two top guys right now, both in the same division, both playing fantastic football, of course. And it really kind of feels like Bates has been the centerpiece and really one of the very few defensive members on the Bengals that have been a very consistent superstar for the squad. They've had a lot of ups and downs as of late. Atkins hasn't been able to stay healthy, and of course, they're losing this year to free agency. Carlos Dunlap had his down season and is now gone, traded to the Seahawks. You had a lot of different players that were up and down the entire year. You had a very inconsistent secondary. But one thing was always very for certain, and that was Jessie Bates was going to anchor the middle of the field, and you need to keep that at all costs. It would not surprise me one bit if they make him the highest paid safety in the NFL. I would do it personally. I would give him as long as possible, 5-year contract, give him as much money as he needs. He's still a very, very young player. And in 5 years, it is very likely that he is the best safety in this league still at that point. And he's going to be consistently going to be one of the best players Cincinnati's had for a very long time. And I think if he continues to stay on this trajectory, he might end up being a future Bengals legend.
And he's the most underrated defensive player in the league. I don't think that's really really debatable. I would say he's the best safety in the league. It's not being biased. You look at some of the stats, and the coverage and everything. It's not biased. It's just stats. And, he was rated, the best free safety according to PFF last season. It's like, Justin Simmons, his extension with Denver, I believe was around 15 or 16, annually a year. Bates, to me, is definitely worth that. He's proven time and time and again. He's one of the best safeties in the league, one of the best young defensive players in the league. You look at the Bengals defense the past couple of seasons. It's just, especially last year, it was not really what anybody expected. It was really, really bad. You take Jessie Bates off that defense, we easily have the worst defense in the league. I think that's pretty obvious. I mean, Bates was phenomenal last season. He was our best player on the team. It wasn't even close. I know some people say, Burrow was good. It's Bates, I would say right now, is not just our best defensive player, but our best player in general. He is just phenomenal. I mean, he's one of the best players, one of the best young guys. It would be really smart for us, obviously to extend him. If we don't extend him, people are going to basically riot. It would be a horrible situation for us to let him go because he's definitely worth that contract of 15, 16 a year, being the top, top safety in the league. But to me, I would say like a 4 or 5 year contract would be the best deal because, I think he's the best free safety right now in the league. And what you said, by the time his contract's over with, he still might be the best free safety in the league. And you kind of mentioned he might be a Bengals legend. And I know this is going to sound crazy, but if he was with the Steelers right now, people would already be talking about him being a future Hall of Famer. And I know it sounds crazy, but if he was with the Steelers, he'd be at least a 2-time All-Pro and a 2-time Pro Bowler. Bates is not a Pro Bowler. It's a popularity contest. And for instance, we could talk about Ken Riley never being in the Pro Bowl. 5th all-time interceptions. Anti-Bengals bias forever. But it's the fact Bates has proven time and time and again he is just so underrated. And with his contract, potentially, if we make him the highest paid free safety in the league, he finally, gets the money he deserves, and finally gets, with being the highest paid free safety in the league, finally gets the recognition around the league that he desperately deserves, because he's proven just time and time again how much a vital piece he is to our defense and our team, and really the future and everything.
I think base case scenario right now for both Jessie Bates and the Bengals is you're looking like a 5-year, $83 million deal at this point. I think is very likely, and that's what I would love to see from sides. I think Bates is getting that would be top safety money in the league at that point, making north of $17-18 million a year at that point, and at the same time you're having one of the best safeties in the league locked down for 5 seasons, which is fantastic. Of course, we do know the Bengals often don't guarantee a lot of that money. A lot of it's unguaranteed, and it all just depends on how they perform throughout the season. And we do know that whenever those players perform, they get paid very well. And if Bates is able to continue to perform very well, he will be paid enough to be the top safety in the league. If not, they have the chance to probably be able to exit out of those contracts near the end of his contract at that point. And at that moment, that's whenever you look to try to find a new safety to maybe replace him at that point. 28, 29 years old, that's reaching George Iloka age at that point. You're looking to maybe try to find a new guy in the future. So we'll have to see how that works out. But I definitely think Jessie Bates is looking to get a very large sum of money, and I agree with everything you said. He is a fantastic defender and needs to be a centerpiece of this team for a very, very long time. He needs to be what they look to build around at this point. And luckily, we've heard from Duke Tobin and Zach Taylor that the number one priority this offseason is to re-sign both Jessie Bates and Sam Hubbard, so it looks like they will be aiming to do that here very soon.
And you mentioned guarantee money. I think that has also a huge factor involved, because if we look at Carl Lawson, I think, pretty much the reason he signed with the Jets was because of guaranteed money. And, our contract with Trey Hendrickson, edge rusher from the Saints, last season had 13.5 sacks, but we signed him to a 4-year deal. But his guaranteed money was extremely low considering what he's, we look at his contract. I think that, agree with what you said there. I think that has a lot to determine on Bates' contract. If we, let's say 5 years, 85, kind of what you said there, if we guarantee around 10 or 11 a year or something, pretty decently high, or 12, something like that, not guarantee at all, because I think that's way too risky for a free safety. As compared to a quarterback would be different, but I still don't understand, why some teams do that. But the guarantee money, I think, has a huge factor involved with Bates. Hopefully the Bengals can lock him up, because he's our best player right now, and it's not even close. Him, along with Burrow, I think are the centerpieces of this team. And if we ever win a Super Bowl, I think we have to have, obviously Burrow at quarterback, and Bates has to be, our guy on defense. So hopefully maybe we can end up re-signing him so he can play with the Bengals and eventually, retire as a Bengal, and maybe get the credit he deserves, and starts going to Pro Bowls and All-Pro, voting and everything like that.